How you doing? Mikey Jayy here. Once again, I wanted to open this show with another scripture read because what we are going to learn today in this episode is all about deception and how it relates to what we see in our daily lives. Uh, this is a read from First John chapter 4, verse 1. It says, "Beloved, believe not every spirit, but try the spirits whether they are of God, because many false prophets are gone into the world. Hereby know ye the Spirit of God. Every spirit that confesseth that Jesus Christ is come in the flesh of God, and every spirit that confesseth not that Jesus Christ is come in the flesh is not of God. And this is the spirit of Antichrist, whereof ye have heard that it should come, and even now already is it in the world. Ye are of God, little children, and have overcome them, because greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world." So, what this is saying is that if you decide to believe the word of man and not the word of God, you will be deceived. And in this episode, we will talk about Tavistock and how much of what we see and hear is to deceive mankind, which is the Antichrist.
Mikey Jayy, he saves my day. Can't he save yours too? We need saviors in this world who knows just what to do. Mikey Jayy, he saves my day.
Oh, they love to target kids with space.
Hosts himself, the Mr. Grind and Shine, the great Primetime 99, the one and only Alex Stein. What's up, my guy?
I'm dead!
David Weiss, because he's kind of like the most respected person in the community. And
I don't know about that. It might have the loudest mouth, but that's about it.
How you doing? I'm Mikey Jayy, and you're watching KGUP Presents. This is episode 64 of season 5. Thank you so much for being here with us. We have an honored guest today, but first, I just wanted to give you a quick reminder that our KGUP store is up and running. If you want to own a piece of KGUP merchandise, we have some cool items, including the News is Propaganda, Turn It Off shirts, the Earth Looks Pretty Flat to Me shirts, and Question Everything license plate, and of course, our official Spaces Fake KGUP shirts, KGUP Present shirts, just like the one I'm wearing. More designs and new merchandise will be coming soon. To find it, go to etsy.com/shop/KGUP store, or go to www.kgup1065.com and click shop. And if you didn't know, you have a chance to win a free t-shirt by joining our Patreon. You can join for as little as $3 a month. If you join for $10, you can get a free t-shirt, and you also get a free t-shirt each and every year in the color of your choice, just for signing up for the $10 tier. And now onto the show. You may have heard of this gentleman. He's been blowing up in the truth community for last 3 years or so by exposing the Illuminati and revealing all the symbolism and entertainment that we've been taking it, just kind of overlooking. He's also been on KGUP Presents before, on episode 14 back in September of 2021. Feels like a long time ago. And I had to look that up because I forgot how long ago it was. But this time he asked me to come on his show, which you can only watch on his Patreon. But lucky for you, you get to watch it on my channel. So without further ado, let's bring him on, the man, the myth, the legendary Doenut of Doenut Factory.
Yo, what up? It's Doenut, and I'm with Mikey Jayy at KGUP, KGUP. What's going on, brother? Long time.
I know, it's been a year and a half. It's good to see you again. Awesome. I mean, I'm so excited to be on your show. This is like my first time. I mean, you've been on my show, and it's been quite a while. And I've been watching your success and watching your channel blow up. It's awesome to see you doing well.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull up our video that we did together
God.
like 2 years ago almost. And it's right.
I was such a fanboy. I'm still a fanboy, but it's so different back then.
And now I'm a fanboy of you. Look at this, crazy. I had a different background. I had an American flag background.
That's
But yeah,
funny.
when did we do this? A year ago. This was, I wish I told the exact date. But
That's
yeah,
way more than a year ago.
it feels like it was longer than a year ago, but
Maybe it was around March of last year. I really don't remember. You
yeah,
know, when you do these shows and you're pumping out shows, it kind of all kind of melts together, and you have no idea about time or space. Right?
yeah. And also when we connected, it was during the lockdowns, I believe, right?
Yeah. So it's been way more than a year. It's been at least a year and a half.
At least, yeah. And also that whole timeline, doesn't it feel like years? Like,
Right.
or like I don't know. It just time is totally warped.
Yeah.
Do you look into any time warping Mandela effect stuff?
I listen to other people talk about the Mandela effect, and there's like little evidences, but I'm like, it doesn't really affect my life, so I don't really let it affect me, and I don't like want to get sucked into this whole like rabbit hole. Like, I did look at the whole Berenstain Bears thing, and I did find some photos of books with that spelt it differently, like Berenstain and Berenstein,
Right.
and it took me a long time to actually find the publication of the original print that had the IE versus the AIN. But I was like, you know what, that could just be in like a publishing error, but I don't know. I don't really care that much.
Well, I kind of feel like the AI, Chat GPT, is like big time all over the news. And
uh,
one thing that the Tavistock Institute does for mind control is gaslight by putting new memories in people's brains. And I'm thinking, is the AI creating a Mandela effect and just telling us that our memories are wrong,
yeah.
placing new memories into our brain?
Yeah, I mean, Satan is the father of confusion and lies, and so, and Tavistock Institute has been operating in that same light for since 1885, and it's been one of those like little topics that I've just been like
Since
really,
1885?
yeah. So yeah,
So that's like
it's been
off
around a long
record.
time.
That's like off record stuff, huh?
Yeah, because the war propaganda department in England,
Hmm.
they initially started in the early 1900s, and then Tavistock wasn't born until 1913. But if you go to like Tavistock or the Wikipedia, it says it started in like 1947. But Tavistock is like one of the deepest rabbit holes because they encompass so many topics, so many fields, and the root is very hard to find. You have to like really dig, and it caused me a bunch of headaches and like a bunch of stuff because they've been involved in so many things. And one of the things that I was like looking into recently was like the name Tavistock, because when you Google search it, you don't really come up with a whole lot of stuff, and there's no meaning to it. Like like why would you name your town Tavistock, or why would you name your company Tavistock? Because it doesn't have any like you know like power, or like when you give your child a name, you want it to mean something, but Tavistock doesn't really mean anything. If you break down the word tabby comes from Octavius, which means born in the 8th month. And in Aramaic and Gaelic, tabby means twin, and tabby with a Y means to burn or slash. And the stock, it means all the animals kept, or it refers to a population of wild or farmed species. So Tavistock translates to either the twin of farm species, or here's what I think Tavistock means: to burn a wild species. So they're burning who they consider the species of man.
Interesting. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love going to the etymology of words. Recently, I've been doing a deep dive on disco and
Ah.
the satanic elements of disco. So, Tavistock Institute, they pushed the hippie movement. They created it in a sense with Esalen Institute that Charles Manson visited days before his murder spree.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at disco with new eyes and light, and I'm finding the craziest stuff. And I've just been on this rabbit hole disco for a while. Like they're doing the Baphomet logo, in my opinion. The dancing
Interesting.
emojis. I don't know
Interesting.
if you, what you think about that. Where is that slide? Oh, right here. Yeah, so I think that there's something up with disco with all the movements that happen because there's a timeline to the hippie movement as it was built up by intelligence agencies, and this is all like you could prove it
Yeah.
with Tavistock and the hippies, and then they ended it with Charles Manson, and then they were pushing LSD, and then disco appeared after that, and they were pushing cocaine. And that ended when Studio 54, the disco club, got raided for having tons of cocaine and money laundering and mafia
Right.
connections. And then the 80s came in and video killed the radio star. That's MTV. And MTV was just pushed. And then you got Eminem. And I don't know how old you are. I'm 34. So I was a kid when the 90s were going on. And the big push was Family Values Tour on MTV and the Woodstock, the new one. And everything was about splitting up the family, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, Tavistock pretty much trained the CIA and MI6, so it goes way far back. And when the CIA was started to conduct, they got the funding for MK Ultra. I think it was in 1953. That's when they started testing people on the psychological drugs and like, mushrooms and reformulating. And then so once they realized they needed to distribute these drugs so they can try to manipulate the minds of all the masses. I mean, they needed these music artists to do the drugs and then promote it to their fans. And so that's how they were able to just manipulate so many people and like this whole hippie movement. And it's like, and so with each generation, Tavistock and CAA, I mean, they really knew how to study and infiltrate the minds of just everybody. I mean, Tavistock Institute has all forms of psychological operations. I mean, it's not just, mind control. I mean, they have relationship counseling offices. They operate under the guise of investment corporations. They have investments in like the AACO, which is like the agricultural department. Like, and one of the things that I found out the last couple of years is like my wife, she actually worked for a restaurant that was owned by Tavistock, the Tavistock Group, and it was formerly known as the Tavistock Banqueting, which was owned by Joe Lewis. And he sold that company, but it was still maintained and operated by the Tavistock Group. And so these groups, this is how Tavistock operates. I mean, they operate under these unsuspected names and people in real estate who just conveniently had billions of dollars. No person who has more than $1 billion can just get that kind of money. Everything is like very controlled. So if you're a billionaire, it's because they put you in that position to become one, because you have these resources and you're able to buy real estate and all these things. Because like what I was looking into, I had met this guy who said that this hotel called Viceroy in Santa Monica, and that all these like think tanks from like Harvard and Stanford University and MIT would come to this hotel, and they would just collaborate and write books and tell like come up with these ideas. And what they would do is you can't just go to the senator or you go to the president and say, all right, we want this to happen, what they would do is they would write scripts for television, film, and then they would write books and then publish those. And so they were encoded with how to proceed with a certain plan. So this is how Tavistock operates. They operate under a guise. And so no one would really suspect, and there's no real paper trail. So that's how they operate, through like music and entertainment.
Right. It's wild. Because I'm just down this rabbit hole on the disco thing. So the only thing that like is in my brain right now is how crazy disco is. And so what are some other, I want to know more about Tavistock. I mean, this is all new information. I read this book called Social Engineering Tavistock. Wonderful book. It was a fun read. And it went into some crazy topics, like how Vladimir Putin was under Royal Archmasonry mind control, and he found the computer codes, and they show you the computer codes, how he broke out of it and turned the army against them. It's just so it was pretty wild. The book was kind of like, what, like, I don't know if I believe that, but I mean, I kind of do, because he was part of the KGB and acts like the CIA of just mind control operations and all that. So,
Right.
and the World Economic Forum, young leaders. So I know the truth is stranger than fiction.
Right.
And I was just thinking about the Family Values tour on MTV, and then the Chronic with Eminem. Remember when the Chronic came out and it was just the big marijuana leaf, and then they pushed pretty much weed in the Chronic onto the youth, just like they did in the hippie time. Right. And disco is where you get
that's where they really push cocaine.
They really push cocaine, but the whole idea of EDC and EDM, right, of taking ecstasy at the raves, came from disco. So that's just
really?
like the 4 on the floor, right, is the beat tempo that is created, which is sort of like an unnatural beat because it's like a computer generated beat. And it was, that's what's going on right now. So every movement, I feel like, is not organic, even though it comes off as if it was counterculture, but it's really developed in these think tanks like Tavistock. So Tavistock, they're a real estate company too. Like they got the Rockefeller connection, they got this military connection. Then you go on the website and it's like, we got restaurants and hotels.
Yeah, pretty much everything. It kind of, now the Tavistock Institute and the Humboldt University, or formerly known as the Frankfurt School of Social Research, they kind of like interchanged. And so the professors would go back and forth. And then after 1933, when Hitler took over and the Nazis took over Germany, they started weeding out the Jewish professors and journalists. They all came to the United States. Everybody came to the United States. I mean, I just found out that 403 prisoners of war from Germany came to down the street from where I live here in Dallas, Texas. And then there was this whole encampment, and I was like, I've never even heard of that. So it was a perfect opportunity for them to transfer all these scientists. And, you know, not even 10 years later, they developed the weather modification program here in Texas. And it's been going on ever since 1951. And it's been nonstop, this whole weather modification program. So all these scientists that came from Germany and came from, like, you know, these programs and these psychological programs, they're all here in the United States. So this whole war was really kind of like a front of like getting the world to, you know, accept these scientists, because they were all, you know, part of the Holocaust, and they were driven out and you know, they were forced here. And meantime, they're creating all these these programs, their psychological manipulation, and creating this whole media. It's never stopped. I mean, we're under their control right now. I mean, you think about who owns Netflix. I mean, that's the nephew of Edward Bernays, and his uncle is Sigmund Freud, who actually went to the Frankfurt School of Social Research. So all these people are interconnected. So nothing that we witness isn't part of this whole Tavistock system, which is crazy. Are you looking at the weather modifications stuff? Yeah, it started in weather modification started in 1890, I believe, and so they've been able to manipulate the weather ever since. And of course, it was all like kind of low technology, but even during the 1930s, Germany's been able to manipulate the weather, which is crazy. This is stuff that they don't teach us in school at all.
That's why you got to go subscribe to KGUP, everybody. Learn this stuff. So this is wild, man. This I thought you could hear me. You couldn't. I was saying how wild that hell all those images were, and even William Reich. I always pronounce his name wrong. He was arrested by the FDA because he had a rain making machine and an organ machine. Here he is making it rain. So Tavistock's got their hands in even the weather modification part. That's wild. So yeah, like Netflix, you're saying how Edward Bernays' son or nephew or somebody related to that family, who's related to Freud, who revolutionized the 19th century with the subconscious and psychology and the powers that be. It's all about mind control and knowing the psychology.
Right.
And they use actors, according to his book Propaganda, which I actually have right here. I got both of his books, Propaganda, Crystallizing Public Opinion.
Nice.
It's all about using the actors to get people to want to smoke cigarettes. And
he's the reason why we eat bacon and eggs in the morning.
Why we eat bacon and eggs. And the disco movement, going back to the disco movement, Studio 54, it was all these different actors and musicians there pushing disco. So
right.
Everything about disco just seems sketchy. Yeah.
It's funny, people who participate in this whole like mind control movement, they don't even realize they're a part of it, because they will prop and put in the limelight anybody who falls into their like, narrative. And, it's the same with the counter narrative. I mean, it's like people like Alex Jones, and the reason why he's able to be at the top of his game and the anti narrative, whatever you call it. I mean, there's a reason why he's allowed to be where he is. I mean, that whole lawsuit is total smoke and mirrors. I don't think that lawsuit is real because, in reality, all he has to do is just file bankruptcy and he never has to pay a dime. So, it's just like all these cases like the Gabby Petito and the Brian Laundrie, like the whole disappearance. Like my wife and I were just watching a video by one of our favorite truthers, and all of a sudden this video pops up, and it's this girl was. I mean, this couple got pulled over, and then they had the cameras going, and the cops were talking to this couple. I was like, "What the hell is this video? Is showing up on my screen?" So it just felt like, and so we just continued to watch, and next thing you know, they let him go, and then at the end of the video, we're like, "Why the hell was this on our like next up?" So it was like it was placed there for everybody to see because they had already hundreds of thousands of views. So that video was placed there intentionally to distract you from what was going on at that time. And then next thing you know, she drives off, and then he goes to a hotel, and then she ends up disappearing and dead. And then later on, he gets, goes to his family's house, and then he ends up dead and killing himself. And then later on, the family sues the family of Brian Laundrie, and then they sue for like $3 million. And so I think that's the payout for being involved in this whole thing. So this $3 million paid all of them, because you don't want to have a check from Tavistock Institute or a check from whatever entity that caused this whole story. And so they had to hide it in this legal way of doing things by having this court thing and having all these like stories, and every news organization blew up this story like it was like wildfire. But like, under normal circumstances, no one would care, but because all the news media was all behind it, it was like a big story, because people die all the time. But why was this story interesting? It was just something to grasp our attention, for everybody to talk about it, because something else was going on that they were hiding. So that's what Tavistock does. They like orchestrate these like little stories and make them huge. And, it's just like all these shootings and stuff. And I don't want to get into all that, because that'll give you an ultimate ban. But
Yes. Well, this
but you know
book
what I mean?
was talking about how they just push operation after operation so you can't think clearly. And I think you make
Right.
a good point. Like, they push this major story for everyone to look at. Hey, look over here, but what's going on over there, while everyone's looking over here?
Right.
Yeah. I think that the whole situation the world's been through with the lockdowns was all the world governments agreeing to study everybody like a petri dish on what to
Yeah.
do during a cyber attack, and they shut down the grid. I guess Bill Gates just came out today and was talking about the grid going down, and we got Bank of America, Pakistan, all these different places, the grid going down. Canada last year, and the Davos just went on, and perfectly aligned with the new moon to set their intention for the Aquarian age for the next 20 years or so.
Yeah.
And I'm looking out for February 5th, because that's a full moon where they set their intention. So according to astrologers, the new moon, you set your intention, and then like it all happens on the full moon. I'm not sure, but March, I'm definitely looking out for something big to happen, because
Oh, especially March 22nd, 23.
yes. So March 22nd is from CERN, Stranger Things. I don't know if you remember that scene where they're rollerblading at like a disco place. The kid's birthday's 322, and they got all the 322 stuff on there.
Wow.
With CERN. Here's CERN's tarot cards. They were CERN commissioned tarot cards. And there's some MK Ultra Tavistock stuff in these cards.
Huh.
Summer of Love.
They were supposed to build a super collider here in Dallas. It was supposed. I'm having a hard time remembering because I haven't talked about it in a while, but it encompassed the entire city of Dallas, and it stretched from like Fort Worth all the way to Forney, which is like I think it was like a 40 or 50 something miles in circumference. And it started in Waxahachie. They actually started building back in the 90s, and it was this underground magnetic circular, kind of like a miniature CERN, and that was supposed to be the starting point of this like super collider that was supposed to go around the entire Dallas County. But they never got funding, and so it got defunded in like the early 2000s. But it was supposed to be identical to CERN, what it is now. They even started this similar project in Ohio. I don't know what happened with that, or if it continued, or they lost funding, or whatever. But I think what they're trying to do is like create these like vortex of like in different locations all over the world to create these like, taking these natural ley lines and connecting them and having this like super energy. I think it's just absolutely nuts, but they know something that we don't.
Yeah, and the way that they use that, I heard the technology is like the Die Glock, which is the Nazi bell, which is like a UFO. The way like the magnetic stuff spins, and they do
Mm.
that too with the two circles. And CERN created the World Wide Web in the internet, and everything's getting sent back to CERN from the internet. And I believe CERN created blockchain as well. It just seems like that's makes sense, and the AI and all this information is getting sent back there. And you bringing up the 12 vital vortices of the ley lines where the veil is thinner.
Mhm.
Definitely something up with that, especially with the Super Bowl coming up on February 12th, leaving 322 days left in the year. And we're in the year of Skull and Bones.
Oh wow,
Yeah, and Skull and Bones.
interesting.
Yeah, Skull and Bones will be celebrating its 322 year of Yale, not Skull and Bones, Yale, where Skull and Bones is at. Will be celebrating their 322 year this year in 2023, which is 322. It's a lot of rituals going to go down all year long.
Wow.
But don't be scared because God's in control.
I mean, that's why I got into like gardening. I mean, my wife and I we're looking into buying some land so we can get as far away as from the city as we can.
That's
I
pretty dope.
mean, we still have to make money. We still have to like, make payments on stuff. So we're still caught up in the whole beast system, I mean, and unless you complete, I mean, there's really nowhere to go because everybody owns something, no
Yeah,
matter.
and if you do want to get out from the people and the grid, you got to make sure that you're not near the highways, because if you're up in the highways, like I want to go to Sedona, right? Because it's
Yeah.
tight and it seems like you're in the middle of nowhere. But if things go down, they're just gonna march on the freeways to the little towns, so you got to be away from the freeways, and there's books and stuff out there. But Texas is a great place because you got the ocean right there, and not too far. I mean,
It's
you got
4.5 hours away.
yeah. So I mean, you're by a bunch of different stuff in Texas.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, Texas, I thought it was going to be a little more free than I expected it when I moved here. I mean, it's a lot better than California, that's for damn sure. Because 3 weeks into the pandemic, I mean, my wife and I were like, we need to get out of here. And March 19th, I mean, I was like telling my friends, I'm like, you guys need to like think about getting out of California because we are. And we were the lockdowns happened on March 19th. We were out of there by April 10th. So we were there for like not even 3 weeks.
I was there for Pluto's return last year in February, and I was downtown LA for a wedding, and you couldn't go anywhere without uh, cards of stuff proving that you've been tested. And I
Yeah.
was like, what is this? What is this? Because Arizona,
Yeah.
they didn't do that.
Right.
So even towards the end of everything. And so this is why I think that they were all the world governments got together to study the petri dish of the world for the cyber event that will take place, where they're going to restart the internet so they can have total dominance. Is that once all the stuff ended, which
Mm-hmm.
that's what Fossey was saying, in 2022 it'll be over. And that's,
Fosse,
is that his name? Fossey?
Fauci.
Fauci?
Yeah.
He said it was going to be over in 2022, and it did end then. But right when it ended, now the world's at war. Like they forget about everything. And I'm just so out of touch with the news, with politics, with all this, because I used to be heavily into it. Like, yeah,
Oh
oh,
yeah.
and just like dominoes keep falling and more is being revealed of just how phony
Right.
the television or the radio is. It's all sponsored.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, after the 1 week into the lockdowns, I realized that we need to turn off the TV because we were in fear. We were watching the news and watching the COVID numbers and all this stuff.
They have the map of death, like
Yeah, and it all it did was just make us feel horrible. And it's like, and we went outside and nobody was outside, nobody was driving around, and like we would ride our bikes and it was just eerie. Like we went to the beach and we saw these like military helicopters just flying by, and then there was like cops on horseback and with their bullhorns, like, get off the, you have to vacate the beach and you can't be here. And we're like, holy shit, it felt like a movie, you know?
yeah. Now it's packed everywhere I go. There's just cars everywhere, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
now I feel you. I want to get out into nature, away from everybody. I totally feel you, and you're lucky man that you got someone to go do that with. That's really cool.
Yeah. You know what triggered me to like really investigate was my friend and I, we were opening up a radio and television studio up in North Hollywood. And so we were like, all right, well, let's just have one meeting before the lockdowns are over, and then we'll have this like big event. And so we met together, but on the way there, I crossed the Hollywood Hills, and it was like a total different world. Nobody was locked down. Everybody was working, going to just traveling like it was nothing. But as soon as you get south of the Hollywood Hills, it's all locked down. Nobody's on the road. Like everybody's in fear. So it was like, what the hell is going on? And that's what triggered me to start listening to Alex Jones, because I had given him up completely after the 2016 elections and all this, like, oh, Trump is going to lock Hillary up and he's going to drain the swamp. And then after he got into office, like literally nothing happened. It was just attack after attack, and then all these impeachment stuff. And I was like, you know what? I am not listening to Alex Jones ever again. But I listened to his radio program, and he was like, Trump is going to lock down the borders, and you're not going to be able to leave the state. If you're in California, you're not going to be able to get out. And so I was like, let's get the fuck out of here, just in case he's right.
Yeah. Well, that's the one thing with Alex Jones played one of my clips, but they didn't give me a shout out, and it's fine. But I was
That's
saying
not
like
cool.
there's astrology connected to what happens. And he's all like, it's not astrology. This is their plan. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure I learned that from his videos
Yeah.
back in the day. Right here is ABBA. This is who brought the disco movement. And you can see it's the reflection, as above, so below. And I believe that's what they're doing, as above, so below, in Pac-Man. I've been on this deep dive right
Pac-Man
now.
is interesting.
Yeah, Puck-Man.
Yeah. Like you were talking about that with what show were you on the other day?
Sam Tripoli.
Yes. And you were talking about Pac-Man, and so I was like, holy shit. So this is like, the Pac-Man plane, and like he's eating the stars, and like these ghosts are really like the spirits, and like the human spirit, and Pac-Man is really collecting these spirits, and reincarnation in I can't even think of that word, reincarnating these people back into this plane of existence. And so we're repeating these lives as like slaves, and actually we're like the bad guy is really Pac-Man himself, because he represents the Illuminati.
Yeah. So like, there's a video that I haven't put out yet, but it's on Pac-Man, and I mean, people were addicted to it. Like the kids were addicted to it, and they made so much money through these games. The gaming system is all gambling. It's all predictive programming as well. And Pac-Man is where we get the emojis. This came out in the 80s, the whole MTV Pac-Man. And I was saying how Pac-Man, it's a pizza slice being removed from a coochie, or there's a coochie too. So it's a pizza slice removed and a coochie, which is Japanese for gateway or portal or hole, right? So like Pac-Man's mouth is this hole right here in a pizza slice. And I turned it upside down and it looks so much like the theosophical art
Yep.
in a sense. So when I was on Tripoli, I was talking about that. I should drop this video. It's pretty interesting. But all these games go back to like Tataria. And not Tataria. There's like Tataria themes, but they go back to the middle of the earth. Rupes, Black Rock. It's called Black Rock. I'm not sure if you ever looked into that.
You know, Tavistock owns I don't know how much, but they own billions of dollars in BlackRock stock.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They have a joint venture. It's the what they call iShares. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's a EFT trading platform that was built by BlackRock, but Tavistock is behind it.
What's the craziest thing Tavistock is behind that you found in this rabbit hole?
That they're behind almost everything successful in this world. Anybody who has any kind of success or billions of dollars, they're behind it. Like they're behind, like, I don't know if you've heard of Ruminant Labs. They're a nonprofit organization that leverages in behavioral science in the food industry. They develop and uses for bovine waste in chemical treatments, and they owned 45% of stock in that company.
This
and
right
then,
here? Maybe not this. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's it.
I like how these rich people, like these billionaires with all this money, I won't show that stuff when when I edit it, but their websites are always crap, but they got like billions of dollars.
Yeah, and BlackRock owns stock in almost, Vanguard and BlackRock, they own stock in almost every successful company. And BlackRock, their portfolio is worth like $111 billion as of the 23rd of January. So that's pretty recent.
So BlackRock, if you look up Rupes, it has a 33-mile wide black rock.
Interesting.
And it's right here. It's this volcano with the four corners, like the game Simon. And Simon was debuted at a disco event at Studio 54.
What?
But this cross, the four corners, and the volcano in the middle is like in everything. It's in Pac-Man. It's all over the place. So like that, just Black Rock in general is weird.
Yeah. Tavistock operates under the investment portfolio program under Tavistock Acumen and or Tavistock AM. So Tavistock has all these like entities that they operate under. So when you try to investigate Tavistock Institute, you're not going to find a whole lot. You're going to find like what they want you to find. Mm-hmm. You have to find all these like sub names and all these investment corporations that they put money in, and their name is everywhere. It's just, you have to dig and find it. So for all the naysayers and people who are asleep and have these like, doctorates and, master's degrees, they only see what they've been told. And so like a lot of these intellectuals don't have any clue that they're being controlled and that they're a part of the indoctrination. And then that indoctrination is a Tavistock Institute like program. Like all these like major universities created everything that we've just think is a household name.
Yeah, and even the whole counterculture movement as well. Like
Exactly.
disco was the counterculture. So like Studio 54, disco, everyone thought they were the counterculture, but
Abba
they're
Zaba.
not. Yeah, here's a bunch of just crazy slides I got. I'm connecting this G with the checkerboard floor to the disco ball and the disco floor
Mm,
right now.
interesting.
Yeah, it's getting really deep on a lot of interesting symbolism that pops up. It seems like the elite do the same symbols
It's
everywhere
like
they
their
go.
secret handshake.
It is. It's just like here's the Microsoft. It's the four corners, just like BlackRock.
Yeah.
Here's retro wave. So like was lo-fi, you know how lo-fi is all over YouTube? Like no matter what
Hmm.
YouTube you follow, lo-fi is recommended with like the Simpsons on it and the like soft, nice music.
Yeah.
It's like, who's pushing that? It's not that the music's not good, but who is pushing it? It's the AI algorithm giving us this stuff.
Right. Yeah, the gaming industry I haven't really looked too deeply in, but it's all part of their programming. I mean, especially now with the whole I find it very convenient how what's that video game that everybody's been playing? Oh geez, I talk about it all the time and the name
Is it a
escapes
zombie
me.
game?
N-
Call of Duty?
no, well, Call of Duty's part of it. There's that other game where it's like you can create your worlds and like it's Fortnite. That's it. Fortnite really blew up in 2019, and so all these like kids that got into that game, they were addicted before the pandemic happened, and so all I work in the education system right now, and so like the grades that are having the most like psychological difficulties is 10th grade. So when the pandemic happened, they were all in like 7th grade when they discovered Fortnite. And then 8th grade is when the lockdowns were probably around 7th and 8th grade, around that time. So they were immersed in that game while everybody was locked down. And so, all right, we're going to give you a laptop and you can do school from home. You just, you log in and do your work. But really, they were just playing video games the whole time. So for a year and a half, they just didn't care about anything other than playing Fortnite and Call of Duty. And so that was like part of the mind control. And now there's these like programs that they install into their laptops and it tracks their emotions, their current state of emotion. And so
What?
they have to log in every morning and state how they feel. And most kids don't
There's a
want to.
there's a movie like that. There's a dystopian movie.
Yeah, and it's crazy. There's no benefit to education at all, other than monitoring the minds of these children today. And it's all they're tracking everybody's emotions from day one of the pandemic. And I don't know what their end goal is, but it's not for the good. I mean that app, which is installed in everybody's laptop, does nothing for education other than tracking these kids' emotions. So I find that very interesting. And they gave like our school district $7 million to have this program to put it on their laptop. So there, other than money, there's no reason to have this app. They introduced this program, and I was like, all right, who's benefiting from this? So I looked up the owners of this app, and it boiled down to like three people. Two were Chinese and one American name. And I was like, why would they invest millions of dollars to have everybody in the United States install into their program and monitor these children's like moods? Like, who gives a shit? Like, what is the ultimate goal? Are they? But they're not doing anything to improve these kids' lives. They're not compiling this evidence and like giving it back to us and saying, okay, you need to do this and make these kids feel better about themselves. They don't do anything. They don't give any feedback. They just say, you need to do this. You need to have more kids log on and put in their emotions. So it doesn't make any freaking logical sense other than we're just getting money to do it.
Yeah, track the emotions. It's interesting. I'm just looking up what fortnight means, and it's 14 days, 2 weeks, and it also is connected. There's a fortnight moon, a lunar fortnight, and the lunar cycle is connected to emotions too. But it's interesting how they're studying these kids, and you're like an insider information. So you can see how they're turning out. Their brains are developing and maturing quicker, not in a good way, but like from the stress or whatever that happened with the lockdowns. Heart attacks are like on the rise, and that's the number one killer, according to the CDC, is stress. And it's like they all stress us all out. It's very important to lower the stress. But
and another thing, at the beginning of the year, we had over, I think, 19 fights now, and our school had 0 2 years ago, or 3 years ago. Before the lockdowns, we had 0 fights for like a string of 3 years.
What grade level do you work with?
I work with all grade levels except for 9th grade.
You're talking high school?
Yeah.
So like 10th, 11th, 12th?
Yeah.
Interesting. Now, I found something weird because I went to a bunch of different high schools, and the suburb high school, you get sent to like a juvenile school if you get caught with drugs, which I got caught with drugs, and I got sent to the juvenile school. But my friends, they got sent to the juvenile school, and they were not in the suburb, and they got sent there for fighting. Because if they got caught with drugs in the public school that wasn't in the suburb, it was okay. It was you're suspended for 3 days. But if you fought, it wasn't okay. But the interesting thing in the suburb, you can fight all you want, and you just get kicked out for 3 days, and then you come back. So they were pretty much saying it was okay to fight, or it wasn't okay to fight in some zones and in some zones. So, I mean, I know that there was some weird stuff going on there, and I think it's connected to Scientology.
Yeah. Scientology is very interesting. I mean, that's all tied to like the Freemasons, and that's all. I don't know if it's connected to Tavistock at all. I mean, pretty much everything is tied to Tavistock. I'm discovering, but Freemasons are kind of like their own entity, and they probably started Tavistock in the first place. So that's the connection, is they started Tavistock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big time, because the secret societies and the spies have a lot in common, is they have to operate in secrecy. So it's funny how Austin Powers is a hippie, right? Who's a spy, and the Tavistock Institute, these secret societies and these intelligence agencies created the hippie movement. So they were spies. So Austin Powers, it's like a comedy movie that's fantastic, but there's like an occult element of truth in it as well.
Yeah. Kind of like Anderson Cooper. He's definitely from CIA, and he's even admitted that he was a part of the program, and they say that he was kicked out after 6 months, but I don't think he was really kicked out. He was just released and planted, because all these journalists, I mean, every single institution, I think since 1985, there's been 432 CIA agents in the journalism, all the major mainstream journalism programs. So there's agents everywhere. we can't
Mhm.
really trust the news because it's all
Yeah.
directed
Yeah,
and controlled.
reading these books, that kind of looked like Alex Stein for a second. Alex does that like shot where he's like close up.
Oh
This
man.
is just him getting drunk. He's always drunk on air. On New Year's, does his drunk thing, and that's very intentional to let everybody, hey, it's New Year's, get drunk, don't worry about anything,
If
follow the
Anderson Cooper
ritual.
can do it, I can do it too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's I getting into this Tavistock stuff, and it's like you can't trust anything. I
No.
grew up thinking I was counterculture, like that I was the individual
Same.
badass, and I'm not. Like the more I look into it, I'm like, I have been programmed to think that I am. And I mean, even with conspiracies, I've got to think about that too. You know, most of it is UFO because Rockefeller funded through the Rockefeller report or something with aliens, UFO investigation. And
Hmm.
that's all connected to secret societies like with Blink 182 and Tom DeLonge and all that. But
Yeah.
that's like, it's so wild. It's so wild, man. It blows me away. So, what
Right.
are you looking at right now? Like, what's your state of mind? Like me, I'm into the disco thing, so I feel so unprepared for this podcast because I've been looking at nothing but disco stuff for 2-3 days.
I mean, I do the same thing. I think, I get into these like rabbit holes and I forget that my whole intention was to like write my book because I started a book like 2 years, almost 2 years ago, and
What's it about?
it's just about like the deceptions and
Oh,
how
sick.
all the mind control and how I realized that everything that we've ever learned about in history has just been uh, a lie, one big giant lie. And everything that we're talking about today is basically what's in the book. And I go into more greater detail. And, after doing this like research, because we were going to talk about Tavistock, I started to uncover like all these like little things that we haven't really talked about, but I want to put in the book. And so I have to go back and like rewrite and add stuff and add all these citations. And, it's like,
It just adds upon each other.
yeah,
It just keeps
I
on
mean,
adding. Yeah.
everything that I think that I know about our history, especially
It goes
United States
deeper.
history,
Yeah.
nothing is real. No, nothing that we're teaching in school is what we think is real. And like not like Nazi Germany, we've learned so many things and all the clues are out there, but we just take it as face value and don't even look into it because all of us are just kind of distracted by sports and like the Super Bowl's coming up, and all these distractions are designed for us to look away and turn and look at things that are like, that tantalize us and distract us. And we want these like, sporting events because it reaches our carnal instinct. And so we don't care what the elites are doing, and we don't care that other people are dying and we're being deceived, you know?
Yeah. And I was, while you were talking about the sports, and I was showing the Chronic up in Smoke Tour, this is who opened the Super Bowl up. You know what I mean? So it is
Yeah.
like major. Um,
I mean, you've been talking about the halftime show and how they inject all these like symbolism and
mhm.
like, and they're warning us in broad daylight, and the masses just don't even see it. They just think it's cool.
They're not even aware. They have no idea.
No.
And the Super Bowl will be happening in my side of the woods in Arizona next month. And so I'm probably going to go around and film stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if some weird stuff went down here because we're on the 33rd parallel. And the
Oh, that's
football
crazy.
trophy is broken down into the like it could be the phallic of Osiris or a key. It's a key for the Omega door to unlock the door. There's so many weird things.
Yeah, my wife and I, we gave up watching football this year. I mean, last year we really got into football and watched more football than I've ever watched. And then after like all these like revelations and like realizing it's all mind control, we gave up football completely. We have not watched the game at all.
I haven't watched football my whole life. I've never seen a football
Really?
game.
I feel like
And
such a loser.
I'm just not like my. I have cousins and they all watch it, and
Yeah.
I'm like watching it, and I'm like, look at all the symbolism in it. This is like a long time ago. Um, I just can never get into it.
I mean, that's good. You have more time to, invest in your craft and things that really interest you. And because, sports is really just a distraction, just like any of these like TV shows. And I want to go to the movies, but I look at the list of movies and I'm like, oh, this is propaganda. This is propaganda. And none of it like really attracts me because it's so blatant, the messages that they're trying to like pass on.
Oh, at the movie theater?
So we watch a bunch of old shit.
Yeah, I just watched a great movie called The Razor's Edge. It's an old movie. Movies I love. I watch all. You can watch movies that aren't brainwashing, and once you see the brainwashing, then it's easy to you just don't want to watch it because you're aware of it. You're like, oh, they're
Yeah. It's hard to
brainwashing them.
unsee it.
Like I just watched Geostorm, and the whole thing was like a leftist propaganda global warming uh movie, and I could just see through that, so it's not affecting me. A lot of people are like, oh, looking at this stuff, you're giving it energy, and I understand that, but it's also very nuanced because if you don't know that you're being conditioned, then you're just going to be conditioned. Like I didn't know I was
Right.
being conditioned growing up listening to Eminem, or you know what I mean. I thought I was being rebellious or whatever, or an individual, but it's like no, not at all. That was given to me to be
Yeah.
that way. That
Right.
was all intentional. So like putting your head in the sand is part of what they want. They don't want to be exposed, and that's the thing, is that if something is being exposed, they want it to be exposed,
Right.
or they
Exactly.
want to talk about it.
Yeah. Or they could just get some fact checker to discredit what you just wrote or find the one word that you misrepresented and focused on that, you know. So you can't, that's why I hardly ever post anything on social media. It's like, well, someone else has already seen it and I'm not really divulging anything new. And even when I do put out something that I've just uncovered, I mean, like the one time that I actually did it, it was censored.
Yeah, see, everyone's been pushing me to get a Telegram for years and years, and
Mm,
I don't have Telegram. I don't know how to even use it, and I kind of don't want it because I'm forced to not look on the internet for information, and I got to read these books to find stuff. So it helps me sort of stay an individual with new information. Like
I
nobody's
can't.
talking about the disco thing.
Yeah, I mean, I've completely overlooked it.
The
Yeah, I
disco thing is so weird, bro, because it's a mirror in a grid. As above and below is a grid, which is like the checkerboard floors. There's something big with it, with the
mhm,
timelines of these secret societies. They do the master builder, master destroyer. You build the towers up and then you destroy them in a sense.
right.
And that's what they do with movements. They build up a movement like hippies and then they destroy it. And then they build up disco and they destroy it. When disco ended after the raids, they had a big event called Disco Demolition Night on a baseball field. And baseball is also alchemical game. The way it's set up, it's a Freemasonic compass, three
Right.
strikes, three outs, 33. And they were all smashing the discs. And the disco ball, right? A disc jockey. The guy who coined the term disc jockey was great friends with the FBI main guy. They labeled him the top G, like Andrew Tate, because
Yeah.
a number one G is a government man, G man. You see the G on the Freemasonic compass, which is kind of weird there. So I know talking like I'm getting older, so like the only thing I know about like the youth is through my friends' kids, and they all like Andrew Tate, right? What do you see that the kids are into now? Like, what is it? Because I'm detached from that, but you have probably the best grasp on it. Like, what movements are going on right now?
I have an Instagram, and the stuff that comes up on my feed. I mean, Andrew Tate did come up on my feed, and I was like, this guy's an asshole. I mean, I don't know why he's popular. I couldn't figure it out, but I honestly don't know. I mean, they're kids are just off in their own world, and they look for people who look like them to identify with and kind of like represent what they think and feel. And so they're just looking for just people to like just shock them. Like I'll look over like people's shoulders and I'll see what they're looking at on like TikTok and stuff, and it's just mindless drivel, like people talking to themselves. I really can't stand it when I see videos of like people having conversations with themselves as if they're talking to someone else, but they'll just clip it together.
They film like hello, and then they're dressed up
Yeah.
as something else.
And
Hello,
then like they're just being quirky and like witty, but
okay.
I watch everything on mute, so I really don't know what they're saying, but I know it's annoying.
It's interesting how everything has become the short format little clips, and you can't learn that way. Like it'll show you
Right.
something maybe, so you go look into it more. But
Yeah, and there's a lot of misinformation. Like there's like this whole video that's been going around about these like ruins in Antarctica, but those turned out to be fake. They was all AI generated. So they're taking like a real place and like adding like these ruins in there, and people are passing it off as real, and people are believing it in these like 30-second TikTok videos. And I'm like, oh my God, this is bullshit. But how do you explain to 2 million people that this is bullshit? Like they've already bought into it and believe it now.
Even with the deep fakes too, like this isn't Morgan Freeman. It looks just like him.
I am not Morgan Freeman. What?
Oh, wow. You can fake anything.
Yeah. And as a video guy, I'm usually good at spotting out what's fake and what's not. But like this is just too good. Like they'll be able to pull off some stuff soon. Like you can have, let's say, a president like this saying we're going to war or something, and everyone will believe it.
Well, that's what I also think about this, the whole Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie, is that they are AI enhanced people. So what we've all seen on the news and what we've seen on YouTube, that is not what they really look like. So they're still alive, and they're just bumping around, just living their lives, but as different people,
That's interesting. Yeah. I mean, you know how you were bringing back the word of Tavistock, or Tavi.
Yeah.
If the disco ball was called a myriad ball, myriad, MYRIAD, myriad reflector. Interesting. Application filed on February 12th when the Super Bowl will be, leaving 3 days left. But myriad means penis. So if you go all the way back to Latin, that's what that means. It means many, infinity, plenty, because there's plenty of things on the grid. But when you go back all the way, it means penis.
The patent was in 1917.
It's called Mewtwo. Mewtwo. So myriad comes from the word Mewtwo. And there's a Pokemon Mewtwo as well.
I was gonna say that was a a Pokemon character. I used to play him on Super Smash Brothers.
Yeah, I got Mewtwo cards. I got the Mewtwo on deck, bro. If you need some Mewtwo's, let me know. I do though, for real. I like the Pokemon, which is Pocket Monster, right? Pokemon Pocket Monster. I like finding out all the interesting video game stuff because they were super important to the programming today.
Yeah.
Even Neuralink, they're testing it playing Pong and whatnot.
Yeah, because they had every monster that you could possibly identify with. So like, who represents you, and who do you want to get a tattoo of, and that kind of shit.
Yeah, this AI art is pretty incredible. One of my friends was making me some donut AI art, and I was just blown away with how like dope it looks. But there's
Yeah,
creatures in the AI art that keep appearing, and they're naming them. Like, are they real entities? It's
right.
weird.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy what technology's done in the last like 3 years, and so like all this AI stuff and kids that have they weren't able to write the things that they do now, but now a lot of these kids are just cheating and writing essays using this AI technology, and you really can't tell. The only way that you can tell is if you know the student's writing ability, and then you're able to compare. Otherwise, these kids are turning in papers that sound like academic, and they're not. You can't. They're not plagiarized at all.
Yeah, that's how I know the AI won't win because humans with art, I mean, like the art is so good, but humans, we're not good. We always screw up things. And that's why, like with me trying to get the camera working, the AI wouldn't do that. The AI actually does make mistakes on purpose so it can learn,
Mm-hmm.
which is creepy. Like what if they're like, oh, let's make a mistake and blow this up so we can learn from it.
Right.
I read this interesting article that the Matrix, how all the humans were batteries and pods because the AI, they didn't need them as batteries, but they didn't want to commit genocide because the programming would be like, that's bad. So they just turn everyone to pods. It was an interesting take.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah. So what else are you looking at? Because I know you interview a lot of people.
This past year has been very spiritual for me. And so I just been like reading like scriptures, and like I even started reading the Quran, and just looking at like different perspectives on like spirituality. Like I'm about to release a video with Hattie McCoskey about reincarnation. So I'm just like, I definitely still have interest in like the esoteric stuff, and like conspiracy against like the brainwashing, and like the alternate history stuff. All that stuff just really just interests me, and I don't know if I'll ever find an end to any of this stuff. I just like the learning process and
It's a
finding
good
all
book.
these answers. What's that?
Yeah, the Sermon on the Mount, Emmett Fox's book. It's pretty good. I like the spiritual stuff. I need to dive back into more spiritual stuff.
Because
I've
we
been
really don't know the answer to anything. So
right.
gathering information from people who have these like spiritual journeys within themselves, like I just like to hear what other people think, and what are the possible answers on how to ascend, and not repeat this life cycle, if that's even a real thing, because
Yeah,
we
I
really don't
really
know.
like the Tao Te Chang. I don't know if you ever heard that before.
Yeah, I have.
That's probably my favorite thing I go to when I'm like, I need to surrender to God. I'll listen to the Tao Te Chang and it's fabulous. And I also really enjoy learning about there's this book called the Hagakure. It's the samurai book. It's the code of the samurai, but it's full of like spiritual stuff in it. Not saying that the samurais were spiritual, but the code of ethics was pretty dope. Like just the way that they live life. I love the whole Zen um, idea of allowing and letting go, and it just makes sense. And the Tao Te Ching was written thousands of years ago, and it still applies today, just like the Bible or the Torah or the Quran applies
Yeah.
today. And the spiritual texts, I got all the different spiritual texts. I got everything. I got the Book of Mormon. I got the Gita. And then I got my crazy books. I got so many books, bro. Colin Wilson's pretty cool. I've been listening to Colin Wilson a little bit. Anything
Nice.
that opens my mind. I feel like
Right.
it's mind, body, and spirit. And I feel like when I learn something new, I feel rejuvenated a little
Right.
bit.
Yeah, and something I hadn't done since I was a kid. I mean, I started praying and like really reading scripture and like listening to like Tyler Doka of Pillar of Truth, and it just certain things that I just need to keep my mind open and not be stuck on a certain like path, because I don't know what's correct, and so I just have to hear things from other people, and not fall victim to the mind control, which is what it's the superficial, which is what's on our phone, what's on the computer, what's on television. That is all just to disengage you from the source of life. And like there's more to just what we can see.
Absolutely, there is. Why pray when you can worry? That's what I always say. Like, why am I going to pray when I can just worry all day? I I've done the prayer and I know it works.
Yeah.
And there is a fourth dimension out there, spiritual realm, and prayer will prove that. If somebody doesn't pray, because I was skeptical about
Yeah.
8 years ago, I started praying. I prayed when I was a kid, but it was the foxhole prayers where I was like, oh God, they're gonna jump me. Everyone's surrounding my house again for like the fifth time this year. And then I would pray. But 8 years ago I started praying consistently, even for my enemies. So like if I have a resentment, there was a YouTube channel that was trying to talk crap about me, and I was so mad, and I prayed for them, and it went away. And now I watch their show like anytime they go live, but they don't talk about me anymore. So I bet you like there was something, because I actually meant the prayer. At first,
Ah,
I didn't mean it. I was like, I
right.
hope they're happy and healthy, those idiots. But then within a couple of days, I really wanted the best for them. It was interesting attitude adjustment. So when is your
Nice.
book going to be out? I can't wait.
Oh God, I need to regain focus and fix the book how I want it to start, and then continue from there. I may have to do like a 2 or 3 part series, because I need to focus on like one specific topic instead of uncovering everything all in once, all in one book. Otherwise, it'll be 1,000 pages. It's not enjoyable to read that many pages in one setting or one book.
Yeah. What are your favorite books?
Oh man, like I got into the expositions by Howdy McCoskey. I've been reading I have so many books that are on my Kindle, and so I don't even look at the titles,
Oh,
so
I
I
got
couldn't tell you what they are. Um, they're all of them. Most of them are just about history and exploring like these like different possibilities. Because
Yeah, I'm down
all the
for that.
fictional books that I used to read as a kid, like the science fiction stuff, I used to read like a lot of Anne Rice books, and none of that stuff interests me. If it's about any kind of fantasy, I just kind of lose it. I'm really more about the spiritual and like these alternative history books.
Mm-hmm.
That's what really interests me.
Yeah, I got so many books, and I like them. I like them all. I'm surrounded by so many books. I got so many. Any topic you want, I got it. I got psychology. I got propaganda. I just finished reading this book and it depressed me so much. I got so sad, and it's called Joy. I thought it was gonna make me feel joy because it's called Joy. I was like, bro, I want to raise my vibration levels.
Yeah.
By Alexander Lowen, MD, The Surrender to the Body and to Life. And it's a pretty long book. I highlighted like everything in it because I was going to do like a presentation on it. And I read the whole book, and then I was depressed for like a month after reading it because it brought
Really?
up so much emotions that I've been not dealing with since a little kid. Because
Yeah.
the whole premise of the book is bioenergetics from the guy who made that cloud seeder that we were showing in the beginning of this presentation, how they're making a rain.
Oh, okay.
William Reich, who was arrested and killed pretty much. This was his not Alexander Lowen was mentored by William Reich. And it's about feeling your feelings to the fullest extent, then you can feel joy to the fullest extent. So I was feeling all of my sadness all month, and I was just sad all month. And I wanted to make the video like, yo, we're going to go into joy. We're going to talk about how to be happy. And I was so depressed and sad. I was all like, yeah,
wow.
joy. It was weird.
Dang. Oh, so the book I was trying to remember was History, Fiction, or Science by Anatoly Fomenko.
Oh,
That's all.
Fomenko.
Yeah, that's a long one.
That's
It's
a
like
big book.
700 pages. Yeah. So it's taking. And then my wife has been reading the Tao. She's been reading the Tao, and when she's done with that, I'm gonna, take a look at that. So,
nice.
and one of the guys from Wu-Tang wrote that book. So I'm curious.
Wu-Tang is actually pronounced udong.
Really? Oh, I didn't know that. Udon.
That's what I heard. Yeah. So like they call it Wu-Tang, but like it's actually udong. The real pronouncing of it. Yeah. Well,
nice.
I'm happy that we got to connect again, bro.
Yeah, for sure. This is a lot of fun. I love digging into this kind of stuff, and Tavistock is like one of my favorite rabbit holes, and it's kind of scary because they encompass so many things that we just take for granted, and we have no clue that our minds are just being steered into a direction that we think we're in control of. But it's all engineered, man. Like,
I can't even pick a song on Spotify now. I'm trying to be like, what do I want to listen to? Because it's recommending all these things.
Yep.
But what do I want to listen to? And I don't know.
Yeah. And, all these writers who think they're being original and they're just conforming to what is popular, because what is popular for a reason, because it's being placed there intentionally. So if you write a song about love, or you write a song about heartbreak or being independent, and it blows up, and you get, you're making all kinds of money from it. It's because you fit the narrative of what they wanted to put out. You just happened to write that song, and it didn't mean that you were influenced by someone and wrote that song for you. That's how some of these songs that have blown up throughout history, it's because they were kind of like recrafted and rewritten to, oh yeah, this will sound better. Or, like the Beatles, I can't remember the guy's name who wrote most of the songs, but the Beatles did write music. They just didn't write very well, and so they were recrafted and re-engineered so it would capture the masses. And so that's how music is done now. I mean, that's why it took 23 people to write a Rihanna song, because they needed to have that certain frequency that would just make you repeat the song over and over. But at the same time, you're being reprogrammed. you know.
That's interesting. That was it exactly 23, because the 23 Enigma is something I've been covering a lot too.
Yeah, it was.
Well, where can everybody find you? I'll have all your links down below.
Yeah, you can find my dormant social media at KGUP FM, or you can find my website where I have all the. You can listen to the radio station. I mean, I do update the playlist pretty often. I have a Spotify and YouTube music playlist. I have a 24-hour running radio station that plays music. There's some truther music in there, and there's like really good like independent music that you won't ever hear on mainstream radio, because I've always been anti-mainstream. And so you can check it out at KGUP1065.com. That's 1065.com. And it's got the podcast link in there, and you can check out the music as well.
Yes, and here's your
Oh, yeah.
YouTube, and then you could check out the podcast that we did a year or so ago, and you could see how much fatter I got.
No, you look good, man.
You look good. I look terrible.
Yeah, and for some reason my hair is like not as receding. I think I was going through a lot of stress at that time.
Yes, we all were. I cut my ponytail.
Oh, and I just realized you cut off your
didn't
hair.
notice, yeah, because I did this intentionally. I said cut it so I could slick it back so no one will know, because I usually go live like this.
Nice.
Well, it's great to see you.
Nice.
All right. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. It's Doenut. Much love, and God bless y'all.
One day liberty won't exist, and Britannia won't raise a flag, and everything you know will be past tense. Need any help with your bags up? Are you checking out early again? No one this day, you're not worried. Oh, you're not thinking about it. Thinking about it. Just sipping down your fizz and letting taste turn to delight. Take the rough with the smooth, and fast food at midnight. A deafening noise that has no sound. It's your ignorance